Foundation, Isaac Asimov, 1951.
If Heinlein and Van Vogt were par excellence, the writers of what we now call, lots of us, the golden age of science fiction, I must mention that a third writer who, from hindsight, would seem to go along with those two is none other than myself, Isaac Asimov. I have never been afflicted with false modesty, or true modesty either for that matter, and so I might as well say that during the 1940s, I wrote robot stories as an example of engineer-oriented science fiction, and the Foundation stories, which were rather in the older tradition of the wide-spanning galactic romance. Both were more successful in later time than they were at the moment. That's why I say, through hindsight, looking back now, it seems to me that I was a major entry in the race then, although at the time, I must admit, I was never aware of being anything but a minor writer.
In this three-part series, I'll take a look at the Foundation series, starting with Foundation, Foundation and Empire, and Second Foundation. Sometimes it's a little confusing having the last novel, the third novel, named Second Foundation, but that is the order. I'm also going to talk about Apple TV Plus's TV series Foundation, specifically about Series 1. These videos will have spoilers for both the novels and the TV series. Foundation is divided into 5 parts or 5 stories. These stories are in chronological order, often with 1 or 2 generations between each story. Part 1 of the Foundation, the Psychohistorians, we are introduced to the world of Trantor. It is the center of the empire. It is a city world whose economy is political. A young mathematician, Gale, has applied for a job with psychohistorian Hari Seldon. Psychohistory is a statistical study of history. It looks at the big picture, and it can predict where things may be going. Seldon is predicting that the empire will fall and there will be 30,000 years of darkness. He hopes to shorten that to 1,000 years of darkness by establishing something called the Foundation. Needless to say, the emperor is not pleased with this prediction, or maybe we should say prophecy, in his eyes. Seldon is put on trial. He and the psychohistorians are given the planet Terminus in the outreaches of the empire. Given might not be the right word, more like banished. This is the only story that we see Gale. Gale is a man in this story. If you've been watching the Apple TV Plus series, you know that Gale is a woman and is one of the main protagonists of the series. One of the other things that you'll find jarring is that we do not have 3 cloned empires, dawn, day, and dusk. For the TV series, they represent all that is empire. So they take the broad thematic theme of empire from Foundation, the novel, but the characters do not exist there, nor the interesting cloning history. This is the only time that we see Hari Seldon alive, in Part 1. Part 2 is the Encyclopedists. 50 years later, the Encyclopedists on Terminus are threatened by the kingdoms surrounding them. We're already seeing a decay in technology within the empire. The kingdoms have lost their ability to use nuclear power. Terminus is able to trade knowledge for independence. In this story, we see Mayor Salvin Hardin. Hari Seldon appears in a recorded message at the end. This is the first crisis that is faced by the Foundation. And we find out that the Foundation is not ultimately an encyclopedia, but it is a movement of scientists who will eventually become a second empire. Part 3 is called The Mayors. There is a quote that is the theme of this story. Violence is the last refuge of the incompetent. Using the power of religion, the Foundation controls the kingdoms around them. Hari Seldon appears for the last time in this novel on the 80th year of the founding of the Foundation. War is averted through the power of religion. Part 4 and 5 deal with traders and merchant princes. We move beyond religion now for control and move to economy. Trade and wealth avert any violence within the kingdoms. Asimov is at his best in finding ways to resolve conflicts with nonviolence. We end Foundation with the Empire weakening. It is not aware of Foundation and the four kingdoms it controls. The novel itself was very dry. When I read it as a teenager, I didn't finish it. I'd found it boring at that time, endless conversations, very little action. I was right, and I still found it somewhat difficult to finish this first time round. I knew I had to read it as background to the second and third novel. At the recording of this video, I'm about halfway through the second novel, and I think it's much better. Part 1 of this novel is the most important part. It establishes psychohistory and the threat of 30,000 years of darkness as the empire crumbles. The big question is, can that be shortened to 1,000 years and the establishment of the Foundation as a new empire? The novel covers approximately the first 100 years of the crumbling empire and perhaps the 1,000 years needed to establish Foundation as a new empire. I was invested in the first story as it connected well with the series. From then on, the series deviated quite a lot from the novel. To get the richness of the experience of Foundation, I think you do need to read this novel, but I only give the novel Foundation a 5 out of 10. Now let's talk a little bit about the TV series, how it is different from the novel. Gale is a main protagonist in this series and continues to be as of the beginning of the second series. The Emperors represent the Empire, but they are not in the novel. The Starbridge tragedy in the first episode does not occur in the novel. The Foundation on Terminus to start with is actually an encyclopedia. It is not some floating vault near a mountain. And Harry Seldon, when he appears, is just a recording in the novel, not someone who can interact with those in the environment. Salvor Hardin averts war between the four kingdoms near Terminus through providing nuclear power and technology to these kingdoms. In the TV show, we see violence and war. The TV show has used cryogenics to find a way to bring back Harry Seldon, Gale, and Salvor Hardin to begin the second series. The show is visually stunning with amazing acting, especially from Lee Pace as the Emperor Day. It takes the scaffolding of Isaac Asimov's Foundation and starts to weave its own story. It is entertaining in its own right. In part 2 of the series, we'll take a look at Foundation and Empire. So what did you think of the novel Foundation? How about the TV show Foundation? Can you see the novel and the TV series as two separate stories set up in the scaffolding of Isaac Asimov's universe? Or are you disappointed with how it deviates from the novel? Be sure to comment. I'm interested to hear what you think. Subscribe so you don't miss the second in this series. Until next time, keep reading.